Hi everyone. Before we begin today's tutorial, I'd like to hold a short memorial for one of my desktop workstations and file servers, which did not survive 2 nights ago's power failure. I didn't lose any data. I managed to yank out the hard drives and transplant them into my new computer, but in the process I basically wound up finding out that I need to get a new CD-ROM drive because I can only have up to 2 IDE devices hooked up, and I need to use a SATA CD-ROM, a SATA DVD drive, or it won't work. So I know all that stuff is probably very confusing to you and it sounds like a whole lot of technical jargon, so it just means that it's going to cost me about $50. Anyways, at least I only have to pay for the parts. I do all of my repairs myself, but I do try to cut costs wherever I can. Alright, today's tutorial is about basically putting together everything that I've shown you so far, getting color into the mix and getting specular lighting, getting all this stuff. So why are we looking at a photograph? Well, that's because if you want to be able to handle all of the problems of painting and making something look realistic, it's a little hard to deal with, painting on a white background, like parachuting into an alligator farm. It's very difficult. So we have ourselves a nice photograph to begin with. We have something that is perfectly realistic for us to match ourselves to. And anytime we stray from realism, anytime we draw anything that doesn't look quite right, it's going to appear that way to us right away. So what I'd like to do is I'd like to draw a car going the other way. Actually, no, maybe I'd like to draw an additional car right here. And I've set up my color palette so I cannot pick colors from the background. I can only pick from colors that I've laid down. So I can't cheat by pulling colors off of the background. I still have to pick and choose all of my own colors. I can only pick from colors that I've laid down. And okay, so the next, just to begin, let's see, what color am I going to make this car? Probably be a red car, but in the I guess I need to put in a shadow, because the shadow is going to have to lay underneath all of this. So I'm going to have to figure out, well, I'm going to put down four points. These 4 points are the points where the wheels touch the ground. Wherever the wheels touch the ground, there's going to be a completely black shadow. I call it the contact shadow, because when something is in contact, no light can get in. So we have ourselves our contact shadow and the basis of where this car is going to sit in 3-dimensional space. We know where this car is going to contact the ground. Now I have to go and throw in the rest of the shadow. So I imagine that the car is going to be perfectly, when I look here on this particular shadow, let me turn my crosshair. Yeah, you can see that right over here, it's perfectly black. It's completely underexposed. So I think it's pretty safe to say that somewhere dead center it's going to be perfectly black. You've got to find the darkest darks and the lightest lights. The lightest lights are out here. That's the darkest dark, and we can see where the transition begins and where it ends. It's an overcast day, so the shadows are somewhat diffuse because the light's coming from everywhere. So I have to try and match those shadows and use the photograph to gain information. We're not just mindlessly copying what we see. Okay. I'm going to extend the shadow slightly outwards, because if you look carefully at this other car over here, you can see how the shadow actually encompasses a slightly wider area, and it's a soft shadow. And the reason why it's a soft shadow is because it's an overcast day. You've got light that is not, it's not coming from a single source like a light bulb. It's coming from this whole patch of sky. So you've got light that's coming here, touching the car and making part of a shadow here, and this car is going to block off this entire area here into shadow. This area is going to fall into shadow right there. All that becomes shadow. But there's, as you move across the sky in this direction, it starts to reveal more and more of, the ground underneath. So that light from up above can start to reach, these areas. So that's the thing, is that you have to. What's this thing doing? Kill the sound off of that thing. Oh, no wonder. Killing that. There we go. Okay. Okay. So we have our shadow in here, more or less. It's a bit blotchy and patchy. I'm not going to worry about it too much. And make a new image layer. And now, let's see. Yeah, I'm going to go for a red car. So, what color am I going to pick? Darkest darks and lightest lights and midtones. So I'm going to see if I can find the midtone of this car. Yeah, let's go for the red right there, and there. So 4 corners again, because this. I'm going to make my brush a little smaller. Redo that. 1, 2, 3, 4. So this is the chassis of the car. And let's see how tall. Remember, drawing and painting are the same thing. They're very close cousins. It's just that painting uses fatter brush strokes and deals with light. And how tall do I want this car? Look at this other car. So, that's how tall I want it. And, oh right, I did not pay careful attention to how all of this stuff is going downhill. So that means I'm going to have to figure out, well, if the wheel's touching here, you've got something that's that tall, and it'll only be about that tall off there in the distance. And there's still more of a perspective effect than I accounted for. Okay, there, now it's sitting off the ground properly. Actually, I want to be looking at the front of this car. Let's have this car going the other way. I know it's going to be going the wrong way up the path, but I just find the front of the car so much more interesting. So, okay, let's get that silhouette in there. Okay. Now, this is a really flat shape here. It doesn't look very realistic at all, but by throwing in the shadow here, it really does help this shape sit into the scene. We need things to sit in the scene. It appears as if they belong. They need to appear as if they belong as part of the picture. They need to look like they're in the picture. So I'm going to find the lightest light. Because the thing is that picking colors here and doing the whole Where's Waldo thing takes a while. It's a bit, it's a bit of a pain in the butt. So you want to do it as little as you have to. So by doing that, you just have to be really careful how you pick your colors. So I guess compare. Look at these other cars, and look how bright. Look at the difference between light and dark, and I guess you just have to try and mimic that. Now these cars are having a lot of a white highlight. That's because they're reflecting the sky. So I suppose what I've got to do is I have to do, well, I'm going to put on my diffuse direct lighting. Okay. And then I'm going to go and throw on the white